Hi guys, welcome to the fan show for this Tottenham Hotspur 1, Manchester United 0 victory at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Like I've been saying on the watch along, not a platinum performance, but certainly more Ange ball seen today than we have done for a fair while. And we are going to talk to Spurs fans from around the world to get their feelings on that victory. Very important that we got a victory today. And I, for one, am very pleased that we did. So let's go to Malta to start. And Melvin, how are you doing, mate?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, lovely to speak to you after a victory, after 2 cup defeats in a row. What did you see about that game from where you were? Obviously, the victory is the most important thing, but did you see some signs of positivity for the rest of the season as well?
Yeah, there was a lot of positive things. The first thing, the result, the clean sheet. 2 clean sheets in the league in a row, showing some resilience and game management. Obviously, United are struggling at the moment, and so are we. But the win showed signs of growth from the team. I liked a lot of things I thought the lineup was good. The performances, I think the players showed energy, fight. It showed that they had a week's rest. I thought 5 substitutions especially helped to keep us in the lead and not concede. I thought United were a bit unlucky because they could have scored. They had some dangerous chances. I thought Vicario in the net. I mean, we've missed him. God, we've missed him, especially since we tend to lose games by 1 goal. Vicario tends to be the difference, and his presence, his size, his leadership. Son giving him the armband was a message or a sign for me as well. Yeah, a lot of positives. Jet Spence, staking a claim for Player of the Season. We for a long time we said Kulusevski was gonna win it, but for me, he's putting his name up there. Incredible, I have to say, club signing Jet Spence. I can't say his name without saying club signing Jet Spence. It's the only dig I have of Antonio Conte and his time here. But yeah, a lot of positives. Tell was good. I thought unlucky not to score. He was a bit rusty, but the team's still learning. And the substitutions, I was happy to see. Odegaard looked brilliant. I know they were tired legs. United didn't bring any subs on or had barely any subs. Ange Ball kind of was there today, but I still see a bit of fatigue. But we played well. I thought we defended okay. Danzo was solid for the majority when he played. Ben Davies was a leader. Was solid again. Pape Sarr, when he came on, I liked him. Maddison, I've been critical of James Maddison for a long time. I thought when James Maddison plays well, we tend to win. It's just simple as that. When he's on it, and he's been criticized in the media, and obviously,
I think that's why he gave it that, didn't he, on his celebration?
Yeah. But with James, it's not just one game. Maddison, it needs to continue. It needs to be again and again and again. For me, he's still inconsistent. Same with Bentancur, good today. But let's see what he does next week. Bissouma came on a bit late, didn't really influence the game much, but he was there. He had energy, he had legs. Happy overall. We haven't sacked the manager. We're up to 12th place. We're looking
heady heights of 12th in the league, Melvin.
Yeah, but you have to take positives as they come. Unlucky we got knocked out of the cups, but now we have players coming back and we're easing them back in. I thought Johnson, I was happy to see him because I thought he was very effective early in the season. He was scoring goals. I know they're tap-ins, Barnaby, but he's putting numbers up, and we've certainly missed that. So I think Johnson, especially when we're going to have European football again, the bench looked good today because when I looked at every single player, I knew who they were. For the first time in a while, there weren't any academy kids, and I didn't have to Google any of them, which is a good sign. I mean, it's good to speak to you after a victory, Barnaby, and us smiling. I know there's off the pitch, there's lots of things we can talk about, but I'll leave that for another day, another pod. All I have to say is the turnout was great. It was amazing. I like the energy and the enthusiasm and like to put pressure on the club, to push the club to be better, and for us to take the football side more seriously. And that's all we can ask for. That's all I want from this ownership. And I'm not going to say anything.
Just to reference that, and you mentioned the bench earlier. You have to say when you see when you take the squad as a whole today, and obviously some of those players not ready to come off the bench yet. Clearly, Doggy and maybe Odebear only for 5 minutes, but you can see that actually, we have the makings of a really excellent squad. And I have to say, Danso as a signing looks good, and I think Tell will prove to be a good signing as well. I don't see that many signings of the last, since maybe what I would call and what Poch called, the painful rebuild started. I don't see many signings that you'd look at and say, they're not right. Maybe only, and he's still young, Dragushin, really, who's the only one who kind of doesn't really seem to fit the system. So it is, it has been a terrible time, but when it's all together, you can see that we've got the makings of a good young squad who can grow together. It's just whether, in the long term, Ange will be given the chance to do that himself, or whether he will. I mean, I basically think at this point, I don't know if you agree, but I think Ange basically needs to get to the final, probably, of the Europa League to keep his job. What do you think?
Not just that. I just think we need to see growth. We need to see us not do the same mistakes, not concede the same silly goals. I think we need to win a few big games. We need to see this team evolve. And I feel we have evolved a little bit. I know it doesn't show results-wise, but I feel the team has grown. I mean, Archie Gray is now 20 appearances. Bergvall is, 15 appearances. These kids are getting game time. And it will do us a world of good. And even the players coming back. I thought Odebear, I really like Odebear. And I thought he was fantastic. I know Sonny was a bit quiet today, but Sonny is Sonny. Listen, his form will come back. He's tired. There's lots of pressure on him. Yeah. I also feel that sometimes he's burdened too much by the armband. It's like he feels he wears, like, he's too emotional at times, and he looks often gets stuck in his own head. He passes when he should shoot. He shoots when he should pass. But it will come to him. All he needs is one goal, and it will open up again. Like I said, the substitutions made a massive difference. They're going to be very important for us in the Europa League. It's a competition that, if we're careful and we manage, we protect our players, which Postecoglou did. He made 5 substitutions today. He was able to bring people off the bench, keep people fresh, take people off. I think Danso hasn't played much football lately, and I feel that's why he was brought off, because we're in a position now where we can protect players, and I don't think there was anything wrong with him. I thought maybe let's not give him the full 90 minutes and bring on Archie Gray, who's still equally as good at the back, and we have great. I think we have options now, and we can really there'll be competition for places, which is something that we haven't had for a while. And especially even the players in the first 60 minutes, they gave everything. They were running because they felt, when I'm tired, I'm just going to get subbed off now. There's another week until the next game. So they don't have to worry about a midweek fixture, which is something we haven't had really since November. So it's great. The problem is we don't need to have any fresh injuries. We have to, try to keep these players fit and keep up the momentum, and I'm happy with how we are in the moment, where we are as a football club, off on the pitch stuff, off the pitch. Like I said, I don't want to. That's for another podcast,
time.
But where we are in the moment, we got through January, then December, January, and February without sacking the manager, without arguing too much with each other. I know I was very cranky at times and was arguing with other fans, and I was defending my own manager at times, trying to think, listen, we have to stick with this guy. We can't sack him. People were saying, oh, give it to Mason. I thought, you have to be laughing if you think Mason's going to do better at the moment. Even set pieces, I thought we were good today. Something that even, I know Danzo is tall. The height makes a difference.
Yeah.
And I'm just happy overall. Listen, we have to win the next game. We have to rise up the table. I'm finally looking up the table. I haven't looked at the table for a while. It's the first time I looked, and I thought, listen, we're 12th now, so we can look up. And we have to see
Marvin,
what's
I've got
a realistic target.
Listen, Mel, I've got to let you go because I've got about 9 other people to talk to. But thanks so much for being part of the show, and speak to you again after Ipswich, I hope.
No worries. See you, Barnaby.
Bye-bye. Okay, next up, I think we're going to the Congo. And Hussein, how are you, Hussein?
Well, thanks. How are you?
Very well. How do you feel after that 1-0 victory, mate?
Well, happy about the result. I think we needed a win, so I'm glad we got it. Two in a row. So hopefully
what did you
we
think
can
of the
build from here.
performance?
I think we had, we had decent possession. We had some semblance of a press, but a lot of half chances. I think we didn't really have many clear-cut chances.
Yeah,
but generally okay.
Why do you think that is? Do you think that's down to a lack of kind of rhythm, confidence, all of the above? What do you think?
I think I'm still not sure about our midfield three. I'm still not sure what it should look like. I'm not sure Ange knows either. But that's where I think off season we're going to have to try and figure out what that midfield is supposed to look like.
It's interesting you're saying, because last, obviously not to. It's a bit of a cliche now to hark back to the first 10 games of last season, but I was at the Lane for some of those games. And what was so brilliant about Spurs back then was the way that the midfield back then of Sarr, Maddison and Bentancur really dovetailed beautifully with Porro and Udogie, who were both coming in inverted. And it was like at times we had 5 players in that central midfield. And nowadays, it's very rare that I see us kind of outnumbering oppositions in midfield in the same way we were back then. And I don't know. I feel like that must have changed from a lack of confidence from just difficult results.
I don't know. I just think the pace is a lot slower. I think we're not moving the ball fast enough. We did a little bit today in the first half, but not consistently. I think that's the first thing. The second thing is you would see that in the first 10 games of last year, what you're referring to, we were on the turning around and moving forward and passing forward. And I think we've gone back to this sideways passing and really slowing it down, trying to look at in front rather than just going forward and connecting and moving the ball quickly. I think that's the biggest difference I've noticed. And that's probably it, where the pace, it's a lot slower.
Yeah. I'm just seeing this from on Twitter from Nathan Clark, who's part of the Extra Inch podcast, which is a really great podcast. He said this: United are a mess, and that wasn't exactly a demolition, but there was still more than enough today to say, hey, look, some players back and midweek rest and Spurs look a lot better. He goes on to say, the question over Ange for me is not and never was, is the bad football because of the injuries? Because that's obvious. Instead, it's are the injuries because of the good football? Where do you feel on that? Because I have to say that's something I feel quite similar to, which is I've been saying for a number of months now. My big problem, firstly, my only problem with Ange is, can he get his players on the pitch?
Firstly, it was nice to be able to make 5 changes. You saw United only made 1 because they had all the kids on their bench, just like we've been having. So it was nice to be able to bring on 5 decent players. So that's good. In terms of the injuries, look, I don't know. Everyone's speculating. We're not doctors. I think if you're going to play high-intensity football, you just need to have a deep squad and be prepared. And I don't think we had a deep enough squad to be able to play the way we want to play.
Okay, and now that we've kind of made 2 signings down the middle of the pitch, do you feel like our squad is deep enough for the rest of the season?
Well, if we don't get any more injuries, if the teams are back, we should be fine. We only have 2 competitions left to worry about. Yeah. But I think in the off season, we need to make sure that, because it's 2 years in a row, our squad has been cut out. So this off season, we're going to have to improve further and make sure we're deep enough going into next season, whoever the coach is.
Yeah. Top man who's saying, listen, thanks so much for being a part of the show.
Right,
call in again for after a future one. Hopefully you're our good luck charm, mate.
Cheers.
Top man. Bye-bye. Okay, next up, I'm going to South Africa and Linton. Linton, how are you doing, mate? How are you feeling after that win?
Much better after the win. Yeah, thanks, Barnaby. It's 3 points. Yeah, nothing better than that. So,
what did you make of the performance, Linton?
I thought it was a good performance, a good-ish performance, shall we say. I thought we were good. It was good to have, obviously, some players back and to be able to make some changes. That was a good positive for me. And yeah, I think we created enough chances, although they weren't clear-cut chances. We still created some nice chances, and yeah, there were some really good performances. Jed Spence was phenomenal today.
He's a monster,
Madison
isn't he?
Sorry?
He's a monster, Jed Spence.
He is, absolutely. You wonder why he's, Ange has taken so long to introduce him. Perhaps a maturity issue on his side. But since he's been introduced, he's been an absolute star for us and almost a new signing, in many ways. I thought Madison looked lively in the beginning. I think bit of match fitness, so I think he ran out of legs towards the end, and that's why he was subbed. I'm really impressed with Dancer. I think he's doing really well, and he seems quite solid at the back. And Ben Davies, good team man. So yeah, he always puts in he always gives his all for the side. So yeah, the real disappointment for me was Sonny. He just seems lacking in confidence. Yeah, he really does. He's lost confidence completely.
It'll come back. I agree with what Melvin was saying, that Sonny's form will come back, and maybe he had some good points there about the captaincy weighing heavily on him, and especially when we're having such a bad season. Sonny's such a team man that you can really see him taking a lot of that on his shoulders. I'm glad you mentioned Kevin Danso, because I think honestly, without him today, it would have been, especially with the physicality and the height of the Man United team, it would have been a very difficult game indeed. And I thought both him and Davis showed a good balance together.
Absolutely, I agree with you. And yeah, I think, with, as you say, with the physicality, I think Archie Gray would have struggled. So yeah, I think, Kevin Dancer is a big man, 6'3", so he's a solid defender. So yeah, he's played really well and showed a good turn of pace there against Garnacho, which I was quite impressed with.
Yeah, I want to ask this question actually, mate, because it's something I've been talking about. Something I'm saying. Do you agree with me that I almost feel now like, don't play Romero or Van der Ven or Solanke and almost Odeberg quite sparingly as well, except for the Europa League. Let's just go full beans in for the Europa League and wrap them in cotton wool. I mean, I'm exaggerating it. I just mean like get them some minutes, but then just make sure that they are absolutely perfect for those games.
Yeah, I think possibly use them as impact players, in the league, because the league we're not going anywhere. We can try and improve our position, but yeah, we've got to go all out for the Europa. That's really what we've got to do. Is we've got to go 100% all in on the Europa, and we've got to spare those players. You're absolutely right. I agree with you. And yeah, so that's really where we've got to go full.
Obviously, there's quite a lot of positivity today, and I'm pleased about that. Thomas in the comments has said this. Today's performance was at best mid-table, losing the ball to a dreadful United team. How do you feel about that? Like I said at the top, I don't think it was by any means a platinum performance, but correct. I did see positives. But again, I would also agree with Thomas in that United are poor.
Yeah, we're not great at the moment either. So It was really two poor sides. And it was sort of a mid-table performance. However, there are positives to take out of the game today. And, certainly the 3 points was a big positive. Getting players back was another positive. Getting those players match fit. So there are. We've got to. We know that we're not playing great football at the moment, but we've got to take the positives. And certainly the performance today, not, as you say, not a platinum one, not a classic performance, but certainly good enough to get the 3 points. And hopefully we can just a little bit concerned if it's a negative that we saw ice on Bentancur's knee, so we hope that's just a precautionary rather than another injury. So but I just think once the players come back and get some match fitness and get some more minutes under the belt, hopefully the performances will improve.
Yeah, completely agree. Listen, thanks so much for being a part of the show today, mate, and speak to you after hopefully another win next week.
Thank you, Barnaby.
Cheers, bye-bye.
Sure, cheers. Bye-bye.
Okay, next up, I'm going over to Paul. How are you, Paul, mate?
Fantastic. Yeah, quite happy with that. Yeah, not a vintage performance, but let's be honest, I don't think you need to be absolutely vintage to beat United at the moment, and that goes for most teams.
Yeah, I mean, actually, do you know what? I agree, but I also think it's probably important to remember as the caveat, they did beat Man City and they beat Arsenal in the cup, so they have found ways to get results in games. I've always said I've got a lot of family and friends who are Man United, and the big problem for Man United is actually less games like today, even though we did win against them, and more about those games at home where teams come and set up in a deep block and they really struggle with them. But listen, I think we were kind of fortunate that they didn't score. Garnacho very guilty of missing some chances, but I also thought Tottenham got themselves in really good positions many, many times, and I think over the course of the whole game we deserved to win it.
Oh, I think so. Yeah, I think so. We some very good performances. Jed Spence again, probably the best fullback in the country at the moment. I just think he's absolutely fantastic. I think he gets into any team. He has been that good. Maddison, first 45 minutes, fantastic, straight back from injury. I thought he put his foot on the ball, he sprayed it about. There was a calmness about him. He, kind of giving the ball away. It was just, nice and easy.
It's interesting with that, isn't it? Because it shows how within the, despite you have, as a team, you have like the confines of a team formation and a structure. When Maddison plays in that 8-10 role, and then when Kulusevski plays there, it shows just how different it is based on player decisions, because Maddison always desperate to go and get the ball off his keeper or the back four, and Kulusevski kind of has no interest in that whatsoever. And that's kind of a difference of about 30 yards at times.
Oh, absolutely. And a difference of us, getting the ball and getting into positions to attack. When Maddison goes and gets the ball, whether it's from the goalkeeper or whether it's from the centre half, he's looking to spray it about. He's looking to make something happen. Whereas you said, Kulusevski will probably stay in that position, hoping the ball is going to come to him from deep or in a more advanced position.
Yeah.
So yeah, they play completely different. I think Maddison just makes things happen more than Kulusevski. But look, good performance overall. I think. I think quite happy.
And
plus two league clean sheets as well on the trot, which is good.
That's right. And worth a mention for Vicario. Obviously, made some big saves.
Yeah, he made some very good saves today. Very good saves.
And where do you think this puts us then in terms of going forward? Ipswich away at the weekend. That'll be a huge game for Ipswich. They love having the big teams down there. But I'm kind of maybe naively feeling quite hopeful that with the amount of rest that they've had in between these last two games, that they'll be able to kind of definitely get control of that game and make enough chances to win it.
Yeah, I think so. I think the rest absolutely is going to help, and is going to get the players that are just coming back that little bit fitter again, like Odegaard when he came on, only for 5 minutes, looked electric once he got the ball. So, another week's training under his belt. Same with Maddison, another week's training before they play again, rather than them back out on Wednesday or Thursday night in a cup game. I think is a massive difference. So, yeah, hopefully, as you touched on with your previous caller, when it comes to the Europa League, we're not going anywhere. So we're not going to do anything special in the league, unfortunately. I think that's a done deal. But yeah, wrapping players in cotton wool, maybe giving them 20, 25 minutes in certain league games, coming up to and around the Europa League games, and go hell for leather. I think I said it to you back in November. I think this two-legged rounds from the last 16 onwards will suit us down to the ground once we get our players fit.
So they're just doing a graphic on the current injury list. So possible return: Werner next week, Romero early March, Solanke early March, Van der Ven early March, Richarlison mid-March, and then Dragusin obviously all season. For me, that strikes me that they've already made that decision. I think they're just like, we're not going to play you. We're gonna rest you, and then like you said, we'll play you for a few minutes. In the few games running up to it.
I don't think there's any fear of us being dragged into any sort of relegation battle. I think that's ridiculous. Yes, of course we want. Look, the league is our bread and butter, but we're not going to make any massive inroads into the top 8 or anything like that. We're basically looking at win the Europa League. You're playing Champions League football, regardless of where you finish next year. So, like, if that's not a carrot to go after, I don't know what is. Romero, you mentioned Van de Ven, Solanke, start of March, which is when we'll be playing Europa League. So
and also I'm also hoping that, you know, the fact that I think now, in a weird way, if we can get keep our squad and team fit for those games, then in a weird way, the fact that the league, we've got no chance of making Europe in the league, means that they could actually spend more time in the weeks kind of running up to those games, really analyzing the opposition and spending more time on things like team shape and properly trying to make the tactics right for those individual games. Whereas in previous seasons, obviously, where we've always been looking to try and get in the top 4 in the league and what have you, then presumably they're only able to spend like 2 or 3 days maximum on stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I think getting, especially, I think the next 2 weeks are absolutely massive, not just league-wise, but on the training pitch. They're absolutely huge. Getting the players match fit that have just come back and played a bit today, and getting the lads that are still out back to at least being on the bench and available.
Yeah. I'd love Ange to spend some time teaching them how to block a cross.
Yes, that would come in quite handy at times. Yeah.
Okay, Paul, thanks so much for being a part of the show again, mate, and hopefully speak to you after a win next week.
Absolutely. Come on to Spurs. Thanks, Barnaby.
Bye-bye. Next up, the UK and Tim. How are you, Tim? Thanks for being patient, mate.
That's all right. I'm better after a result. It's nice to just grind a result out, but they can never do it easily, can they? Ever.
They can't. And it's always nice to have a microphone twin, Tim. That's what I love about talking to you.
Oh, you know, it just looks like we're on the opposite side of things, doesn't it?
It's almost perfect. So, who really impressed you today? Jed Spence, I would have thought.
Jed was great. He should be down for Player of the Year already, I think. Very impressed by Danso. Vicario was great. Mm-hmm. I think Bentancur was better, but he's still getting back to fitness, I think. Madders for the first at least half an hour, maybe 45 minutes was pretty good. But I think we're stuck in this bit between either having players who are completely knackered or just coming back from injury. We haven't got the sweet spot yet, and hopefully that will come in the Europa League. So we've got Kulu, who was not really particularly on his game. Sonny, not particularly on his game. Tell looked lively, but you could tell he wasn't match fit and his touch wasn't there. Like at the end of the game, I'm sure at full match fitness, he's tapping that and taking it around the goalkeeper rather than fluffing it.
Yeah.
So
agreed.
although it's a win, I think against a better side that weren't just worse than us, we could have been in trouble. It could finish the ball. We were still letting people through too easily through the middle. Our front three was still a little bit too ineffective, but I'm not going to complain at this point. I'm just saying, thank God the luck's come our way a little bit, and we've come across a side who are just pretty awful, to be honest with you.
Yeah, listen, I actually, really good point, because I feel like there'll be a lot of Manchester United content creators probably having discussions right now in the similar way to the discussions we've had to have over the last 2-3 months, where you've got no bench to bring on, you've got no way of changing the game, and exactly what you said about not being in the sweet spot, just having players on the pitch who are getting more and more tired and can't do anything about it.
I think it's interesting to note, like, we still haven't got the squad back. And if we want to close out a game and we've got centre-backs, Gray's perfect to put just sitting in front of them. And obviously we never had the chance to do that. He's great at stopping, he's great holding on the ball and going past people. So once we've got those options, with someone like Gray coming on and just sitting there and passing out to Bergvall and whoever, I think we'll look a lot more solid, because, Basuma, Sarr still, I don't think is fit particularly. His touch is not there, so I think the future looks bright, as it were.
My only thing with Archie Gray, and I've mentioned this on some of my videos, there's no evidence so far, and I'm only saying yet, he's obviously very young, but of his ability to take the ball on the half turn. And I think it really suits him, from everything I've seen of him, when he has the game all in front of him and he's able to play those passes in between the lines. He's very good on the ball and very brave in the air and a good tackler, etc. His body position when defending is excellent. But so far, I don't think we've seen enough. And obviously, it's not his fault because he just hasn't played there. But that ability in the number 6 role to take the ball on the half turn when you're being pressed incredibly hard, or to flick it round the corner or back to the fullback, that's something where Bentancur and Basuma, I think, are more comfortable. But in terms of, do I think Archie Gray could be good, like you said, sitting in front of them for when the opposition are on the attack? yes, I would agree.
And as you say, he's young, and he's really just played the central defence and right back. So I'm sure come a good off season, and you know, he will be one where that's the sort of thing they'll work on. I'm going to say a quick thing about all the protests, as it were.
Sure.
Guys, be careful what you wish for. Really, be careful. Do we want dirty Qatari money? And I know people have got issues, and I've got issues, but really, have you looked at other clubs and what's happened to them? Just be careful what you wish for, I think. I'm no great, you know, genuine leave is the best thing in the world, but I think there are a lot worse things out there. Worse things out there.
Listen, mate, I appreciate you saying that, and I think we probably feel quite similarly. But I was watching some of those social media clips of the walk down Tottenham High Road earlier, and I have to say, not all of them, but it was a majority from where I was watching of pretty young fans.
Yeah,
and that's fine. Everyone is absolutely allowed to feel how they feel, but and I'm sure maybe we've discussed this before, but the reality is, I think those of us who are a bit older, a lot of us are able to kind of remember some of the stuff before and how close we were to going out of business.
Yeah.
And I would say, listen, if Qatar buy Tottenham Hotspur and plow £500 million into the team in one transfer window, am I going to say no? I'm not going to say no. I'm not going to stop supporting the club, but you know that it's like you're just joining them rather than doing it in a way that the rules were designed for. However, equally, I can't, you know, wave a banner around saying we are the PSR champions. That means nothing either. So, you know, it's difficult, but you've got to say there were many more people at those protests today than there have at previously.
Definitely.
Times.
Yeah. When I was, I've been able to season ticket up to last year, and they were fairly small, but obviously they're getting more. But look, today was a good start. But how many times have we said that? What it means is going to Ipswich next week and actually putting in a good performance. Odegaard looked great coming on, but that's what 10 minutes. So it kind of, I'm a Spurs fan, you know. I'm like, I've always got my eye on the door, as it were, going, what the hell's going to happen next? Who's going to come in next? But, you know, I'm forever hopeful. Otherwise, why would we be Spurs fans, eh?
That's it, exactly. Listen, thanks for being a part of the show, Tim, and hopefully speak to you after another win next week.
Yes, my microphone twin. Have a good time.
Bye-bye. Okay, next up over to New York, and Lee. How are you doing, Lee?
Well, this is a first. I don't know how many times I've been on, but we've lost every single time. So you said about the guy from Congo being a lucky charm. I'm the other guy.
Well, I think I'm the other guy. I've been doing these for 4 months now, and that's probably that might even be the first home win we've had in the league since I started doing this. No, there must have been a couple, but yeah. Anyway, good result. What were you impressed with today?
I think it was just the effort. You know, no rocket science here, just having that week off. But you just saw people. The commentary that was here in the US, I don't know who it was, but someone was saying that we seemed like we had more energy than them, and we've definitely not heard that in the last, couple of months. And I think that was it. And you saw people putting tackles in, and that there was a lot of decent play. And I think everyone who's been on has called out all the right players, but it was just seeing that effort. And we wouldn't be Spurs fans if I didn't remind myself that Aston Villa was this time last week, and that was shocking. Liverpool was 10 days ago. That was probably worse. So, this we need to string a couple of these together. But I just think we only had a couple of players back, but it seemed to make a big difference, and we just seem to have a bit of oomph about us. And long may it continue.
Yeah, completely agree. And just nice to be able to enjoy a week where I can listen to all the podcasts I love and not feel like when I'm going on a run listening to the podcast that it's making my run even worse than it already is. I'm so terrible at running and hate running anyway. So that's really good. And I think, like I said earlier, I don't know if you agree, but an opportunity to go to Ipswich and really try and play our brand of football next week.
Yeah, I mean, you'd want to see
it won't be easy. I'm not saying it'll be easy, but
yeah, I don't think it would be easy at all. I mean, they drew at Villa, I think, didn't they, yesterday?
Yeah, with 10 men as well, actually. Good result.
So, yeah, it's not going to be easy. I'm excited about Tell. It's always tricky when you judge a player when you're only watching on TV versus those players those fans in the stadium. But it struck me that he was making an awful lot of runs that we weren't seeing. And I think that's an encouraging sign, because once people like Maddison, I think, start to see and get a sort of rhythm with him, like we're old enough to remember Gary Lineker, but he used to make those like darting little runs. He wasn't always just coming short. And I just hope Tell keeps making them, because if we start finding him and he's got that turn of pace, that I think he's exciting. And then I think all you want to see from the rest of them is just that passion and the commitment that we saw today, because Ipswich is going to be much more of a battle, I think, next week.
Yeah, I imagine they'll sit a bit deeper. One thing I'd say about Tell, yes, I agree, he made a lot of runs, but also he's playing against a pretty experienced back three. I mean, DeLitt and Maguire, so he was up against it today, and he kept showing for it. And I like, in the most part, his kind of touch with his back to goal. He's obviously not going to win many in the air, but he keeps showing for it and giving it back and then spinning in behind. So, yeah, I like the look of him. I think it'll be interesting the rest of this season, because obviously players who come from foreign leagues, they very often take a lot of time to adapt. And, I actually think even though during that kind of period just before deadline day, I was pretty desperate for us to sign him permanently, I actually think it benefits both parties to see how he does over this few months.
Well, yeah, the try before you buy, and also for him to, you've kind of got to want him to want to be here. And, you forget he's 19. He's probably moved with his whole family. They're still probably looking after him. So, yeah, I mean, it's in his interest, but yeah, I think he's encouraging, and you forget, you go, well, I think you were just reeling off the dates. Solanke maybe not that far away, so all of a sudden the future. I would have liked to have seen maybe Son come off a bit sooner today. He just seems to be so running on empty, and we probably say it every week. And same for Kulu. But they'd be the only complaints. But maybe they can be rotated sooner rather than later, because everybody else seemed quite. I mean, Maddison wasn't great. He was just fresh in the way that he came on and got around the pitch. He didn't do anything. I can't remember an amazing defense-splitting pass, but he was just busy,
There was one great pass he played inside the fullback to Son, yeah. But yeah, I just, like I said with the previous call, I just love how Madders is just desperate when he's like this, and he's desperate to get on the ball. Yeah, and we need more players like that. Anyway, listen, mate, thank you so much for being patient and calling in, Lee. Let's talk again after another win.
You got it. Thanks a lot.
Cheers, mate. Bye-bye. Okay, and next I am going to Ireland and Noel. Noel, thanks for being patient, mate. Couple of fist bumps there. How are you feeling?
Fantastic. Any season that you beat Man United 3 times is a great feeling, because lots of my mates are Spurs fans, and they always talk the Ferguson line. It's only Tottenham we're playing today.
Yeah, so, it's Tottenham. Yeah,
but for that alone, I think it was fantastic. Not a fantastic performance, but some very good individual performances. All the guys have touched on it. I thought Vicario was amazing. Showed why he is the number one. A couple of good saves. Very, very composed, and I think he spread a lot of confidence to the back four. And we talked about Kinski last week. And it was just they look very inept in that position. I spoke to my son Gary immediately after the game, and he was impressed all around. Thought that Tell was actually showing very well, and was probably a wee bit too anxious. Yeah, I think actually you touched on it with the last caller there. His touch was good. I think he wanted that goal in front of the home supporters. He's very young. He's only 19, so I think he will come good. Midfield, I didn't think Bergvall really was great. I thought he might be subbed earlier, but all in all, a lot of commitment. And I was as nervous as a cat through the whole experience. I mean, being a Spurs fan, it's never over to the fact that he sings. So when I saw 3 minutes coming on, I was very much relieved. So all in all, a good day. Much better. Much better.
Completely agree. And do you think this is hopefully, I guess, along with the Brentford game, the start of a good run? Because I will say this, under Ange, it tends to be quite streaky in the Premier League. We tend to kind of go on some runs of defeats, but then also some runs. I remember at the beginning of the season, after we had that Leicester result and the Newcastle result, we did, after maybe the first 4 games, go on a bit of a run where I think we maybe won kind of 6 out of 8 or something like that. So hopefully we can do something similar.
Yeah, I think it's all the guys said it. The squad looks much more balanced now. We're able to make changes. I looked at the Man United team before. They had nobody. They were in our position a couple of weeks ago with 12 injuries or something like that, and their bench was I don't know if they made a sub at all. I'm not really sure. I think you're right, actually. I think that we can push on from here. It's a terrible thing, being a Spurs supporter when you're hoping that Wolves and Leicester lose, that you're looking down the table. I mean, and that's what I was actually doing yesterday. I was looking actually for Arsenal to beat Leicester and
to
beat Wolves. We shouldn't be doing that. We're too big a club for that. And as somebody touched on it earlier on, we're now looking up the table, and I think we can go on a bit of a run. Pointed if we don't go to Ipswich next week and build on it. But will you tell me that Brentford was the last league game? Is that?
Yeah.
It seems so long ago. So we've actually won 2 games in a row.
Yeah.
It just seems so long ago. But life as a Spurs fan, as you know, Barnaby, is not easy. But there's a lot more positives there, and I agree with all the other guys. I mean, the players that are coming back, Van der Ven was rushed back a couple of weeks ago against Elfsborg, but thankfully that he wasn't played since. And obviously when he does come back, that he would be fully fit, and the same with Romero. I think that gives us a bit of breathing space and a lot more hope for the end of the season. And I think the spine of the team was better today. We talked many a time about the spine, but Cardio definitely was brilliant. Danso, I thought, was good. I thought it was strange, so taking off a centre half. I'd always be nervous about taking off a centre half with 10, 15 minutes to go.
Hopefully that was just precautionary.
Well, yeah, but I see, Bentancur with an ice pack on his knee, which is not a very good sign. Hopefully that's not too serious. But all in all, much better. Obviously we can improve on that. And always felt that we needed that second goal.
Yeah, me too.
And it was never coming. And I was always afraid of United at some stage. I think Garnacho wasted their best opportunity. But I thought the defence very, very well. I thought Danso and Davis did well. Jed Spence, again, class. He's a guy, if you look at him, actually, he doesn't even seem to break sweat.
No, he doesn't. And one of the great decisions of all time to give him a new contract just before he started playing the best football of his career.
Yeah,
which is what we did earlier this season.
We talked about this so many times. He's been shabbily treated, for the last, since he came there. I mean, Conte wouldn't even play him, called him a club signing. And then he was shipped out a couple of times, and there was question marks about his attitude. And, would he be sold? Would he not be sold? But by God, I tell you what, I don't know where we'd be without him. He's just a phenomenal talent. I think he's a real athlete. And I think, we have more decisions to make. Somebody touched on it again earlier, that the midfield doesn't look to have the perfect balance. I thought Madison did well today as well. Obviously, he got his goal and, showed some nice touches. Great for his confidence to come back, and actually win the game. So all in all, positive.
All in all, good. Thank you so much, Noel, and hopefully speak to you after another win next week. Cheers, mate.
Come on, you Spurs. Thanks, Barnaby. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Okay, and finally, thank you for being so patient, John in Essex. John, how are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm all good, thank you. You?
Yes, very good. What impressed you in that 1-0 victory today, mate?
Not a great deal, to be honest. I'm really happy with the 3 points. It was a must-win game for me. But I was very confident for the first time this season before a game. I expected us to win, and that's before I knew that they didn't have anyone on the bench. And going 1-0 up, we got off to the perfect start. And when I say I was a bit disappointed, I was disappointed we didn't kick on and put them away. I had a very nervous 15 last minutes, expecting them to get an equaliser and we'd come away with a point. So happy that we held out. But yeah, I mean, when I say I'm disappointed, like I say, just the fact that it could have been that little bit easier, I think, if we'd have just pushed on and got another goal. I thought they were there for the taking.
Yeah. And how do you think this kind of result sets us up confidence-wise, and also, hopefully with a bit more, well, obviously with more minutes in the legs of the injured players for the rest of the next season, or maybe we should just look short-term over the next couple of games?
Yeah, it sets us up brilliantly. It's great to, have a couple of them come off the bench that we haven't been able to have. Archie Gray not starting, that'd have done him good, having a rest. He's done a lot lately. And yeah, it's good to be able to do that. We haven't been able to do that for most of the season. And like I say, I think we've got, when everyone's fit, I think we've got a very good squad. I think we're one world-class midfielder away from being very good. We've got 2 players for most positions. And I said a month ago, I can't wait for next season. I really can't. I wrote this season off. I can't see us doing the Europa League unless we get Solanke and Van der Ven back as a minimum out of what is still out injured. You know, with them two back, with what we had today, I'll give us a chance. But I can't see it without them, to be honest. But yeah, overall happy, but I did expect to win. Yeah, we did, clean sheet again. Although the Garnacho miss was massive. Garnacho, that was terrible. But it's about time we had that little bit of luck. We haven't had none for a long, long time. So, we deserved the win. And I see a lot of people sort of knocking Son, saying, he's not the player of old. He don't need to be with all what he's done for Tottenham over the years. He had the chance to go to Real Madrid, Liverpool, Barcelona, knocked them all back for Tottenham. And I think he'd make a great impact sub when everyone's fit. When he's got a full squad fit, I would have him on the bench. And I think with 20 minutes to go, he'd be brilliant for us.
Yeah, I actually agree, and I think Brennan Johnson is a really perfect kind of impact sub for us as well, because when there are wide open spaces ahead of him, that's where his ability to use his legs to get separation and then get crosses across the front of the box, and that's what he's best at, I think. Yeah,
I'm glad to see Spence doing so well. I did say after his second game for Tottenham, I would have him at right back in front of Porro, and a lot of people laughed, but he's becoming a very, very strong player for Tottenham, like where Ange ain't going to be able to leave him out.
I'm hoping that because Udogie was on the bench, I'm hoping that maybe Porro can get a rest next week and Udogie can come in on the left.
Definitely. A few of them need to be rested if they can. And, Udogie, if he comes back to the form we had in his first season, then brilliant. But not so much how he was at the start of this season.
Agreed. Well, listen, thanks, John, for being a part of the show. Really appreciate it. And hopefully let's speak again after a good win against Ipswich next week. That would be ideal.
Yeah, nice one. Cheers, mate.
Cheers, mate. Bye-bye. Okay, guys. It's been a really good post-game fan show chat. I'm just going to get into the comments a little bit. Gary Maloney, 3 points. Happy days. Yeah, loving it. And then South, thanks for your comment. It says, we need an elite 6'10 right wing and a better backup striker. Yeah, I mean, listen, I think 4 elite players would be brilliant for Spurs. I do think, I said it earlier, I do think that in general, the recruitment over the last few transfer windows has been pretty good. I'm happy with Danso. I'm happy with Tell for now. I think he's going to get better. He's going to get more rhythm into his legs. I agree with what you say about an elite 6. I don't know how viable elite 6s are. Obviously, Man City have really struggled to replace Rodri since he got injured. So that kind of shows how difficult that can be. But who knows? Cantab, good comment, says now Ange needs to rotate properly. Yeah, completely agree with that. We need to make sure that none of these players who've suffered with injuries this season, that none of them really get re-injured, just in the way that Richarlison has. And I did see a comment saying how Ange said that Sonny and Bentancur got kind of non-serious knocks, I think is what they said. Oh, yeah, and Danso, here it is, from Reed Right Own says, apparently Ange said Danso, Bentancur and Sonny picked up non-serious knocks. Okay, so hopefully they can just maybe impact injuries and they'll be fit for next week.